now we are going to do a live mock interview, like how to crack PM interviews. Sriram is a very good friend. He used to work with me at Razorpay, and he's currently a senior PM at Adobe. And he has worked in both B2B, B2C products. And so I'm going to do a live mock interview with him. So the question in hand is going to be, you're a PM at Instagram. The engagement on Instagram has dropped by 40%, and identify the reasons for the drop.
Okay, so happy to be here. Thanks for the invite. And I hope this session is fruitful for all of you.
I am the interviewer. Sriram is the interviewer. Sriram is going to answer my questions. I am the interviewer, right? We will talk for 20 minutes. And after 20 minutes, we will tell you that what he did well, what he did not do well. Sriram, the question is, you are the PM of Instagram. The engagement has gone down by 40%.
Sure.
So how will you find what is the reason behind it?
Okay, got it. So we want to correct the engagement to earlier levels, and that is the reason why we want to really, find out why this is happening.
Correct.
Okay, got it. And so I know that Instagram is typically used as a short video app or posting. People do a lot of things on Instagram, commerce, etc. So what are we defining as engagement for our purpose today? Is it like transaction? What is it?
Engagement is basically number of active users who see Instagram stories.
Instagram stories. Okay.
Yeah, number of active users.
Okay. So there are posters, creators as well as consumers on Instagram. Are we looking at creators also, users also, like you and I who are consuming it? And there I'm sure that there are small user persona on advertisers, etc. backend. So what are we focusing on here?
We are going to see everyone who has seen some story in the past.
Okay.
Everyone has seen some story in the past, and going to see active users.
Active users. Okay. And this is a week-on-week drop or a month-on-month drop, year-on-year. How are we saying that it's 40%? What is the base? 40%
is week-on-week drop. Because on daily basis, we'll have multiple other factors. So we're seeing week-on-week only from last week to this week.
Okay, got it. So if I were to restate the problem, we're looking at why has the week-on-week number of stories watched per users, or users who watch at least 2 or n number of stories on a daily basis has dropped by 40% week-on-week. And we're looking at anyone who's watching a story.
Great question. Sorry, I forgot to tell the definition of activity. The definition of activity is people who are seeing more than 3 or more videos in a week. Instagram Shorts. Stories.
So 3 or more stories, you mean?
There are more stories in a week. So they are called as active users, and number of those users are decreasing.
Okay, got it. So for this purpose of engagement, we're looking at those who watch 3 or more stories, and it may or may not include other actions. So I'll ignore the other actions for now, right?
What do you mean by other actions?
Posting, liking, or maybe they change something on their profile. So for us, the core important metric is 3 or more stories.
Correct. Because that is where we monetize things, and we want only that.
Got it.
We don't care about other things. We care about people watching videos.
Got it. Cool. So I'm going to go about it in this specific fashion, that we know the typical sequence of actions which someone follows when they come to viewing a story, right? And it's typically a funnel where I'm starting at some point A and ending at B, and B is going to be watching 3 or more stories. The idea is at the top of the funnel, typically there could be external reasons which are causing things. And by the time we come down to the smaller action, which is viewing stories, it could typically be either internal reasons, user behavior, or maybe once in a while it could be some external reasons also. But that is a framework I'm keeping in mind.
Why did you take a funnel approach? Any reasons?
Yeah. So the idea I had in mind is that if we are seeing a dip at B, it cannot happen just at B. Probably it's happening earlier. Or if it's just happening at B, then I know that it's happening at that moment. Then I can deep dive into that specific step and look at what other ways are there to figure out, look deeper.
Okay, can you do one thing just for my understanding?
Yes.
Funnel, right? Can you explain that entire funnel process, journey process?
Yes.
Like, what's the funnel?
Okay, got it. So I'm looking at this funnel this way, that typically for a user to be engaged, they open the app, right? And app loads properly, and they are maybe doing 1 or 2 actions, maybe viewing or maybe scrolling some action, and then they click on a story or video. So let's say they click on a story and then they let the stories play, right? Say they click right button, and then they go to third story, right? So this is kind of the funnel I have now. And there could be like 20% of the cases which are like, say, for example, somebody's changing their profile or, whatever. So those are like 20% of the cases. I'm looking at the 80% of the cases. So this is the funnel I have in mind. Is that fair?
Funnel is fine. Yeah. How do you say the 20-80%? Like, what is your logic behind it?
Sure. So this is for now. Typically, I'm looking at anecdotal usage of what people do on Instagram, and basically whosoever I've seen other people, whatever they do on Instagram, and the general observations mainly, and whatever third-party research you have for now.
Okay, if you want to tell surely what data you will see, look at to do this.
Got it. So I can look at the number of users who are typically looking at, app open, app funnel, number of people are viewing, scrolling, maybe you're looking at the profile section. And if I rank the users by percentage of people who are doing action X, and I do a descending to ascending order rank of actions by number of people as the metric to rank people, then I'll know that the top 80% of the actions fall in this bucket. So that will help me follow the funnel. So I'm assuming that funnel is going to consistent. Okay, got it.
Fair enough. Okay.
Right. So before I go to the app open stage, I just want to clear one thing. So we are seeing this fall across all platforms, right? And there's no web platform, keeping in mind. Mobile web or web.
This is across platforms.
Across platforms. Okay.
Yeah, across platforms, yes.
Okay. So do we see any specific fall, 40% or something close to the same at the app open stage? Are equal number of people opening the app in all platforms, week over week?
Week over week, Android platform is where we have a lot of users. So Android, we have 60% of users. And then remaining 30% is in iOS and 10% is in web.
10% is in web. Okay. Yeah. So out of these platforms, are we seeing any specific dip in any one platform, or are the same users coming back to those platforms? Are they opening the app or not opening the app?
No, not platform specific.
Not platform specific. So I assume that the app opens are the same, right?
Yeah, across platforms, yes.
Okay. And I'm assuming app loading also, there is no issue. We don't see any alerts, I assume, on crashes.
No.
Got it. Right. So then do we see any other falls in any specific generic actions? Say, for example, viewing a post or scrolling, any other action? Do we see any drop in those actions?
No. So tech-wise, app-wise, we are not facing any problems.
Okay, step-wise, I got it. So now viewing the third story typically happens where I click on the story and then I let scroll to the second story and third story. In this journey, starting the clicking this first story, scrolling, etc. Do we see the 40% drop at clicking the first story itself, or do we see a 40% drop at second story, or any insights do we have there?
See, number of people who completing these stories is what we call them as active. So after people are seeing first stories, people are seeing
the first story.
People are seeing second story as well, but they're not completing the third story.
Not completing the third story. Okay, so there is a possibility that something might not be optimized with the third story. So before going at what could that be, are we seeing this across, say, demographic segments also? Say the demographic here I'm defining as combination of location, age, maybe device type, or if you have any other data around the person, which could be gender, say, for example. Do we see any cuts?
We see it only in India, not across all markets.
Okay, so in India we see some challenges here. Got it. So to look at other aspects, so I'm looking at, let's say at the third story we're seeing some issue happening. That's either because of the system showing some issue or the user having some issue. We've kind of noted that it's happening in India. So that's the user insight we have. I'm now trying to look at what's going on different with the system, right? Why there's a change in user behavior. Do we have any splits across? What type of stories do we have? Do we tag the stories as, informative stories, ads, or, any social categories, or, stories with videos or audios? Do we have any of those tagging?
We categorize all the stories. And then category, it's based on an algorithm. Like we try to category based on the music they use and stuff. Yeah, we do category.
Okay. So in those categories, do we see any differences in any cluster that, usually in this specific cluster of shots or stories, we see 40% drop, one with the music or without a music or duration, or maybe there is some text in the story. Do we see any spikes like that?
Yeah, we do see. We do see in categories, but it's across two categories, I would say. Like people just talking in videos and people having sounds and dancing and stuff. These two categories we are seeing problems.
Okay, got it. So it looks like the content of the story probably has something. We could dig deeper there, and it could also be that the matching of the user receiving that same content, like category of video, could be a problem. So probably we should explore more there to see if are they getting typically a category which they don't view, right? Typically I see only images. Today I'm getting a video with audio. That's the hypothesis I want to go ahead with. So maybe we could explore more into that angle.
But okay, fine. Let's say that that's an hypothesis. Like, how will it?
Got it. So now my hypothesis is to say that, okay, typically that they are watching content Y today, and they were watching content X today, story of typical content X today, but categories falling in X, category falling in Y, and that's the reason why they're not watching it again. That's my hypothesis. So one thing I can do is I can sample a bunch of users who are in that, who dropped off of the third story, and typically look at what were the categories they were watching, and also look at those users users and look at the categories which they were served, right? If I then notice that the percentage of categories which they were shown to them and what they were watching, it is starkly different. Let's say this week and last week 1, week -1, week -3, etc.
Yeah, say
then
that it's different. Say that we figured it's different, and then if we figure out.
So there's a difference. Got it.
This problem, then what can be the problem like?
Got it. So so I'm just taking a minute to think, like a few seconds to think.
Okay,
so
okay.
Category, got it. So what I'm seeing is the serving could be a problem either because of miscategorization or the serving algorithm has changed, right? That could be one thing. Or in terms of understanding what the category is, maybe that algorithm has changed. So basically I see something going wrong with the algorithms, or if you are doing some manual categorization or changing some business product rules through a backend team, they could have changed something. So I would want to talk to those users, talk to those teams, sorry.
We look into it and we see some problem with one of these.
Okay, so
we see some problem in the recommendation algorithm.
Got it.
Now, how do you dig deeper now? How do you find out what can be the problems?
So we now look at what are the changes in the algorithms, right? What proportion of new categories is it serving, and what proportion of earlier category it was serving,
okay,
right?
You figured out, right? They're showing the wrong category. What changes could have been done?
Sure. So one thing is that since the engagement dropped week over week, right, and they changed the algorithm, just wanted to make sure they did a phased rollout to make sure like engagement maintenance was also one of the hygiene goals they had while doing the phased rollout. That could be one, right? And when I say phase rollout, it's one in percentage of users. It could also be, did they do it in a different location? Like, because we see India is having an issue. Did they do it location agnostic? That is something we can definitely look at. We could also see if they did any pre-testing with, let's say, some engaged users, just served them and got their feedback. Maybe showed some in-product survey. Do you like it?
On the execution side, Sriram, but on the algorithm side, like what you think could have been wrong? Because now you figured out, right? Their third video is not the category of video which they used to see before. Now what could have gone wrong?
Got it. So so I'm a little bit of thinking out aloud here. So it can happen that, let's say, when you're recommending video 2 after video 3, if you're moving from video 1 to video 2 to video 3, right? So which means the sequence of algorithms, it can happen that maybe the algorithm is serving each video or each story separately, not probably factoring in that, and maybe the algorithm, the weightage or whatever the machine learning algorithm is giving weightage to geography, maybe that weightage has reduced to some extent. Maybe there's a bias in the data set. The new model which you use maybe is using only last 6 months data, and in the last 6 months for some reason we are seeing more users from South America, because of which the model is learning patterns from South America and maybe wrongly applying. So maybe so those are some of the hypotheses now spring to my mind.
This is what I wanted to understand from you. You have almost narrowed down to the problem. Like one problem which we did was, like exactly said, we studied the US market, and the US market videos with music was working out well. So we tried showing that more to the Indian market people, but Indian market people did not like those kind of English music videos. So algorithm did not take into location as a thing. This time we missed it out. So location, that's why we had a lot of drops.
Got it.
Yeah. Sure. Hey, thank you, Sriram. Folks, this is what we wanted to talk about. So what we did with Sriram is, as soon as I asked the question, Sriram asked clarifying questions. Like when I said engagement, he tried to understand what is engagement, right? After I said active users, one thing which he missed out is, he did not ask a definition of active. Like it took some time till I gave him some cues. He spoke about active, right? And another one thing which he did very well is, he tried to break down the problem. He took an approach of a funnel approach, because the problem is not the problem at the place where you face. Like engagement will not drop because people did not see the videos alone. It can be from anywhere. Like people did not even come into the app, so engagement can drop. People were not able to even log into the app, right? So he took an approach, like very well said by Kailash, he divided and conquered, right? He came from the starting, and then he tried to break it down into smaller problems, and then he did this. One thing they see is a very good structure and approach you have to give to the interviews. You should first tell the approach you're going to take, and you should always ask the interviewer, like, am I going in the right direction? You should be very clear, because both of you should be aligned. And another thing which he did well towards the end is, like, he went in an approach, like I just cut him down there. Then I told him to dig deeper. What did I do here is second order thinking. Like I asked him to break down the problem even further. Like I asked him to break it down further. Then I told him algorithm, break it down further. Like it's like if I ask more wise, is he able to answer? Because one problem which we face with product managers is people who don't do well, right? They will be stuck in the first level. They will say that in India it's not working, so we would have to change the strategy. Like it's not that way. Like it's not strategy. It's just an algorithm, simple algorithm, but algorithm learned from some other country, right? If Sriram had not broken down again and again, like you would have solved for a different problem, which is a very complicated problem. But Sriram did this. Sriram went down and then he asked. When I asked multiple ways, he went and then he dig deeper and he figured out that there is a very simple problem with the algorithm. So it can be fixed in a day or two. So that is why root cause analysis is a very important skill which is asked in the interviews, because in your day-to-day job also you try to break it down into multiple smaller problems and figure out what is the problem.